Good morning. We're still reading Pinocchio, Classes to Gran by C. Collodi. We are on chapter 37. Chapter 37, A Real Boy at Last. From that day on, for 5 months, Pinocchio rose early every morning to go to work and work. Every morning to go to work, the well sweep for the farmer. In this way he earned the daily glass of milk, which helped to restore the health of his sick father. Not content with that, he learned to weave wicker baskets and hampers, and sold them for enough money to provide for their daily needs. Among other things, he bought a nice little wagon in which he took his father out to enjoy the air on fine days. During the evenings he practiced reading and writing. In a neighboring town he bought a second-hand book for a few cents, and this was used for reading. As for writing, he made his own pen out of a piece of scrap iron, and his own ink from berry juice. In a word, he behaved so well that he not only made enough money for them both, but also laid aside a small sum to buy new clothes for himself. One morning he said to his father, "I am going to town to buy myself a new coat and hat and a pair of shoes. When I come back I shall look so fine that you won't know me." And he laughed and started out in high spirits. He had not gone far, however, when he heard his name called, and and turning saw a beautiful snail running over a hedge. "Don't you know me?" asked the snail. "Why, it seems to me," said the puppet in doubt. "Don't you remember the snail who tended the door for the fairy with the blue hair?" "I was so slow in coming that you rammed your foot through the panel." "Oh, yes, I remember now. Tell me quite quickly, beautiful snail, where is my good fairy? What is she doing? Has she forgiven me? Could I go to see her?" To all these questions the snail replied with her usual slowness. "I'm sorry to say that the fairy is ill and in the hospital." "In a hospital?" "Alas, yes. A prey to 1,000 griefs she fell sick, and is now so poor that she cannot buy a piece of bread." "Oh, my poor fairy," wailed Pinocchio. "I wish I had $1,000,000 to give to her, but all I have in the world you see here in my hand. Take it, good snail, and hurry to her with it." "But don't you need it?" "I was only going to buy some clothes, but what difference does that make? I would sell the very rags off my back to help her. So hasten, good snail. Come back in a couple of days and I will try to have something more for her." The snail, contrary to her usual way, began to run as swiftly as a lizard. When Pinocchio went back to the house, his father asked, "Where are your clothes?" "I decided not to buy them today, but never mind, there will be plenty of chances." That night Pinocchio sat up 2 hours later than usual, and instead of weaving 8 baskets, he wove 16, very weary. He went to bed and fell asleep. As he slept he dreamed that he saw the fairy, radiant and smiling. She bent over and kissed him and said, "My good Pinocchio, because of your kind heart I forgive you for all your misdeeds. Boys who help other people so willingly and lovingly deserve praise, even if they are not modeled. In other ways, always listen to good counsel, and you will be happy." Here the dream ended, and Pinocchio woke with his eyes wide open. Imagine his surprise now to discover that he was no longer a wooden puppet. Instead, he had become a real flesh and blood boy, just like other boys. He rubbed his eyes and looked around. The bare room in the straw cottage had vanished, and instead he saw a fine sleeping apartment, handsomely furnished. Jumping out of bed, he found it laid out for him a beautiful new suit of clothes, with hat and leather boots to match, all of which fitted him perfectly. When he had dressed himself with many exclamations of delight, he happened to put his hand into his pocket, and there he found a small ivory purse on which were written these words: "The fairy with the blue hair returns to her dear Pinocchio the money he sent her and thanks him for his good heart." Opening the purse, he found the same number of pieces which he had given away, but instead of copper they were shining gold. Then he chanced to see himself in a handsome mirror at the other end of the room, and it seemed to him as if it were somebody else. Instead of the silly face, long nose, and rickety joints of a wooden puppet, he beheld a bright, intelligent boy, with brown hair, blue eyes, and a fresh glowing complexion. Indeed, he was as handsome a boy as you would wish to see. These surprises had happened so close together that Pinocchio did not know whether they were real or whether he was not still dreaming. "Where is my dear father?" he cried suddenly. He ran into the next room, and there he found Geppetto, hale and hearty, as though he were a young man again. His father felt so well, in fact, that he had set to work again at his trade of wood carving. "What has happened, father? How have all these splendid things come about?" cried the boy, throwing his arms around about his neck. "It is your reward," replied Geppetto. "My reward? Why, for your change of conduct. When boys quit being bad and try to be good, and they make the whole household happy. And the old wooden Pinocchio, where has he gone?" "There he is," answered Geppetto, pointing to a limp, lifeless wooden doll leaning against a chair, with his head hung upon one side and its legs crossed so that it looked ready to topple over at any moment. Pinocchio looked at it for a moment. Then he said to himself with great satisfaction, "How funny was I when I was a puppet, and how glad I am to be a real boy at last." The end. Finally, it is over. Pinocchio is done, and I do not know what I will be doing next. I think Robinson Crusoe or Wonderland. I have to look at the collection again. All right. Thank you and have a nice day and Happy New Year. And everybody remember to breathe and relax and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.